Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. Excuse me. You should be seeing on your screen the Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. If you're on the VirtualPBX website, you can mouse over support, and then over on the left there'll be Dash login. Your login information, your username is simply your email address. All right, password going to change depending on who you are, and then your account name is usually your company name. You can always click Remember Me, or if you ever forgot your information, you can click on Forgot Your Info. And now I'm having an error here. Let's get that reset here. And there we go. Sorry about that. All right, and once you get logged in, you get to the dashboard page. Now, if you've just signed up, you'll be taken through the Dash wizard, which will go over like your account information and whatnot. Once you close out of that, then you're here on the dashboard page. Over here on the left, these are your options of where to go. So right now we're on the home/dashboard page. This is the numbers page. This will take you to your main number, your incoming call handling. This is your groups. Then you have your devices, your voicemail boxes, your feature codes, and then lastly your call logs. I'm on slightly scrunched view, so normally if you have a wider view, it'll actually have it spelled out for you. For here we have total users. These are all the people on your account. On Dash, you are billed on a per user basis. So basically each person who's making and receiving calls, you're going to be billed for, which means the more people you add, the more your bill will increase. Obviously that means if you get rid of people off of the account, then your bill would go down. You have total devices, and then in this case 34, and then broken down by type, like soft phone or cell phone or VoIP phone, etc. Generally speaking, depending on your plan, will depend on if you have to pay for a device or not. I believe Dash Basic, you actually have to pay per device beyond a web phone, and then above that, you get at least one VoIP device for free, or as part of the plan. Unregistered devices, this is in reference to your VoIP devices. So physical VoIP phone, a soft phone, which is an application on a computer or a cell phone, or the web phone, which is basically using a web browser. And by unregistered basically means the system says, hey, it's not connected to us. Now, it doesn't tell you why. Like, it could just be, the power cord got pulled out on the phone. Well, can't get connected without power. Right, it could be there's a network issue, like your network is having a problem, can't reach out to us. Any number of things. Right on the right, we have your main number, or main numbers in this case. You can have multiple main numbers. All these numbers behave the same way. So they all have the same main greeting, and then they all route to the same location. Below that, we have your fax box number. So this is where you can receive faxes for your company. You could also have a conference number if you're going to make use of the conference bridge. Down here, we've got total numbers. These are all the numbers on your account. Generally speaking, most plans include 1 to 3 phone numbers as part of your plan. If you go over that, you're going to be paying, I believe the list price is $4.99 per number per month. So in this case, I'm spending a lot of numbers. Then we have it broken down between assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned numbers means you're using them. The conference bridge number, it's a fax number. It's going directly to a user or to a ring group or to a queue, whatever. It's going someplace, right? And someone can pick up a call. Spare numbers means number on your account, but it's not going anywhere. Basically rings busy. This could be because you bought a bunch of numbers and you're holding on to them for future growth or for a future advertising campaign, that sort of thing. Then we have another different breakdown. In this case, USDAD, meaning U.S. local numbers or U.S. toll-free numbers. You could also have international numbers. If you wish to add an international number, you will actually need to email our porting team. So porting, P-O-R-T-I-N-G, at virtualpbx.com. And you need to include the city and the country that you want to add a number in. Just be aware that some countries have very strict qualifications to get a number. Right? Sometimes they want, some countries just don't care. Like, okay, here, have a number. Others say, nope, you have to have proof of presence. You have to have a business presence in that city that matches where you're requesting from. But our porting team will basically say, get that information from you and say, oh, we're going to need this sort of documentation to be able to get the number for you. Or they'll just say, oh, here's your number. All right, company directory users, you see 11 here, even though I have 21 users on the account. So as an admin, when I set up these users, I only selected 11 of them to show up in the user directory. You can change that as an admin at any time. And then you can download that whole link or that whole list. Next up, we've got the account ID, this long alphanumeric string. This is essentially your account number. Now, if you ever have to call in to support or to our billing team, we don't typically ask for the account number because that's a large, long number that most people aren't going to know. We're typically going to ask you for your company name, and we'll look you up that way. But if you need to email us or chat, you can always use that, and we can find you that with that very quickly. Next up, we've got the account realm. You use this to program a third-party VoIP device. So say a soft phone from Counterpath, like Xlite. You would use that account realm to help program that. We also use this for our email to fax. So basically, you create an email to send out a fax. In the email, in the to field, it's going to be +1 area code and phone number of where you're faxing to, your @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you send off, and then you make sure you attach a PDF or TIFF, and then you can fax out. And then here at the bottom, we have the store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our web store, which you can find the link right up here. If you need to buy a physical VoIP phone, we also have some routing equipment out there, as well as soft phones. All right, while we're up here, the caller ID. This is your company caller ID. You use any of your main numbers. And then next up, we have the company caller ID name or CNAME, or CNOM, depending on who you speak to. This is restricted to 15 characters, including spaces or special characters. This is an industry standard. So when you input what you want to say there and click on Save Changes, this information gets sent to all the carriers who support CNAME. It takes about 3 business days for all of those servers to get updated because we don't control them, because they're going to different companies. And then once you make an outbound call, that's the information that should show up on the CNAME on people's phones. A couple things to keep in mind. Not every carrier in North America supports CNAME. Actually, not every carrier in the world supports CNAME, which means if a call happens to route through one of those carriers, the CNAME information just doesn't go through. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, right? If they're having higher than expected call volume, CNAME doesn't go through, right? Or if they're having a maintenance issue or an outage, right? in telecom, primary focus, get the call connected, and then followed up by the caller ID, the number. All right, CNAME is very far down their priority list. And then the last thing is, if you happen to be calling someone who has your phone number programmed into their device, whatever they have you labeled as is what shows up. And then for calls to cell phones, not every cell phone provider does support CNAME to begin with, or if they do, they often have it as a paid service. Next up, we have the company emergency, or E911 address. So this is for VoIP phones. You pick up a VoIP phone, call 911. This is the default address that gets sent to emergency services. Now, if you have remote employees, you can have different addresses for their VoIP devices on a per device setup. Hold music. So on Dash, you can upload .wav or .wave or .mp3 files for your hold music. The main thing to remember when you're uploading media files to Dash is they need to be recorded in mono, not in stereo. So like if you record on your computer by default, most audio programs are going to record in stereo. You would need to basically get rid of one channel and then upload. And that's important because when you call in and listen to it over the phone, you only have one speaker. So it's a mono device that you're listening on. And if you've got a stereo file, you end up hearing a lot of static, typically. You can hear some of your greeting, but you're not going to hear it very clearly, or you might just hear complete silence. The other thing to keep in mind is on Dash, hold music is after the inbound caller has actually spoken to someone already. So call comes in, they hear ringing, right? Then one of your staff member picks up, starts talking to them, says, oh, I need to put you on hold for a minute. They press hold on their VoIP phone. This is the default hold music that will play. And then we have hours, which is actually part of your main number menu. So we have here your main numbers. Then we have your office hours strategy. So by default, when you just sign up, you're on what's 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, your system's ready to accept calls. Now, you still need to get it set up, but the idea is that it's not going to be ringing busy once you get set up. Most people choose custom office hours. For each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark, and then you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Fortunately, it's in a list and a pull-down form, so you can choose your times. One thing to keep down here at the very bottom, if your whole office or store is closed for lunch, you have a check mark here, and then the system will automatically close you at lunchtime every day. And then you would click Save Changes. Office holidays, you can set up your holidays in advance. So first, up here, you'd hit check, are you closed for holidays, yes or no. Right, check means yes. If you leave it unchecked, that means you're not, i.e. you're open all the time. And then you would click on Add Holiday, and you have the choice, single day, date range, or advanced. Single day, just like here on President's Day, you give it a name, whatever you want to call it, and then you pick the date, which will show you the months and then the days. Notice that there's no year. Right, date range, right, like down here for Christmas, and again for 22nd through the 26th, so the system automatically puts you in holiday mode once it knows the date has gone over to that. Advanced is as shown here, basically the second Monday of March, we're closed, right? Office retreat. One little note here, beware the New Year's Eve to New Year's Day holiday. So if you're closed New Year's Eve and you're closed New Year's Day, you want to do each of those individually, so a single day. If you have that overlap, or as the date range, the system just puts you in holiday mode the whole time, all year. And then you would click on Save Changes. Next, we have your incoming call handling. So this is how your system's handling calls that come in on your main numbers. How do you want it to work? So right now it's on my open hours, right? I have a holidays tab here. You could also have a lunch hours tab and an after hours tab. But they all have the same 3 options. So first one option here is call comes in, goes to your virtual receptionist, i.e. you have a greeting play, and then you have menu options to choose from. So if we click on the link here, there we go. So on the left are your menu options. This is what people press on their phones to navigate through your phone system, right? You press 1 for sales, 2 for support, that sort of thing. And then you would click Add Route to give them a route and make a determination of where it's going to go. Right, so like you have go to a particular person, you can go to a ring group. We have a couple here that are going to ACD queues. We have one to the Smart Directory. You can also have it go directly to a voicemail box. You can have it go directly to a device if you wanted to, or even just have a media file play. Couple caveats. If you have it like just go to a media file, for example, after the media file is done playing, i.e. it hits the end, the call is ended. Right? If you have just go to a device, that's it. It just rings at that device and that's it. It's not going to go to the voicemail of a user or a voicemail box unless that device has its own voicemail box. So just something to keep in mind. Over here on the right, we have your greetings. It's kind of strange. Basically, it's a box that you can open. You can type in text-to-speech, right? So you type in a greeting, you click Update, and then you click Save, and then you would actually hit Save Changes after this. Upload a file. Again, this is going to be a .wav or .mp3 recorded in mono. If you've already uploaded greetings, you can choose from the existing recordings, and this will should show you a pull-down list of all the greetings files you have. Recorded over the phone. Not sure why it's not showing up on the screen. Basically, it gives you instructions. Mostly, it's basically they pick up a VoIP phone you've already added to the account, dial into your main number, and then enter a PIN number, and then it'll guide you through recording over the phone. Now, for that PIN number, it's going to depend on the time of day, right? So during my open hours, it'll have one PIN number that I can do during my open hours and then record, right? Versus like my holiday hours, be a different PIN number, which I can then use during one of my systems in holiday mode to record. Same for closed and for lunch. Professional recordings services, we've partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. This link, if you click on, well, there'll be a link that goes to their page that's designed for us. They have something like 100 voice actors to choose from, both male and female. They have different versions of English. They have English and Spanish. Actually, they have a couple different versions of Spanish. They have a couple of versions of French. You can go bilingual. They have packages, including, a hold music treatment, right? So, you have a script, then some music, and then the script, that sort of thing. They have their own pricing, their own billing, and they deliver it to you via email, and then you simply just upload. And then down here, setting number of retrials on misdial. Basically, how many times can people make a mistake? Are you going to let them have? I usually say have like 1 or 2, maybe 3. And then you would click Save. And then remember, it's like when you, we had 2 windows open. Interesting. All right. So anytime you make a change here, right, you would click Save, but then you also need to hit Save Changes here. And that saves all your changes to your incoming call handling. All right, so now we'll go to option 2. So this is call comes in and you're offering it to a user, or you can offer it to a ring group. But basically, the idea is you're giving a staff member a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then the inbound caller goes to your virtual receptionist where they hear your greeting and they have menu options. Right, so basically give a chance to answer the call first. And then over here, similar idea, call comes in, goes to a person, to a group, etc. Again, you're giving someone a chance to answer the call, but if they're not able to answer, you send them to voicemail. and then save changes. Next, we got your main fax box number. You can always unassign the number and reassign it. You have an option here to edit, although I think my fax box here is not working properly. But when you edit the fax box, you have two fields. One is the incoming notification, so basically you just put an email address. And that way, whenever a fax comes in, that's the email address that gets notified and sent the fax that came in. It's a PDF file. The other box you have is the SMTP permissions. Basically, this is allowing outbound faxing for anyone with your email domain. So if your company has its own email domain, right, so abcdogwalking.com, you can put the @abcdogwalking.com in that SMTP box, click Save, and then Save Changes. And anyone with your email, that email domain, can send a fax out from the system, even if they're not a user on Dash. All right, we'll go over to numbers. So numbers basically has two tabs: numbers in use, i.e. the numbers that you're making use of and where they're going. And then over here, spare numbers. These are numbers you're not using. If you have numbers that are spare numbers, you can actually remove them. So like you would check mark and then you can click delete. Say confirm. It says yes, it's been removed. You click continue, and now I just saved myself $4.99 a month. Buying numbers. This is where you would add. So local. You would do a search for an area code. You would see the numbers that are available, and you can add multiple numbers if you want. And actually here, we'll just add one of these. Click on Buy Numbers. It's saying, hey, we're making sure, A, it's available, then we're activating on your account, and then now it's a spare number. Similar process for toll-free numbers. You're just picking a toll-free prefix. You click search, and again, what's available shows up, and then you can add it to your account. Porting number starts the porting process, and you would click on New Port Request up here, and enter. And basically, you would follow the on-screen instructions. The main thing that we need in a porting request is we need a filled-out letter of agency, or LOA. You can download it from the port process here or from the our website. For a local number, we also need a copy of the bill from your current carrier. Both of those documents would need to be uploaded either through the portal, or you can just email them both to porting@virtualpbx.com. And then we submit the port request to the other carrier. Now, porting and phone number can take anywhere from 1 business day up to about 6 weeks. It just depends on a lot of factors. First and foremost, the information on the LOA has to be accurate to what your current carrier has on file. We also have the copy of the bill. If you're porting a mobile phone number, right? So you're handing down the iPhone phone number. You're like, oh, I want to put this on as my company number. A couple things to keep in mind. Mobile numbers have what's called an account PIN to be able to port out. You have to get that from your current carrier. It's usually not something you already know. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're porting a mobile number is once that number ports, your mobile phone doesn't have a phone number anymore. So you would need to be in contact with your mobile carrier to get a new phone number for your phone to keep working as a phone. Go ahead and close out of that. And generally speaking, once we have the porting documents from you, our porting team will send you a few emails. Basically, their first email saying, hey, we got your documents. Here's what the porting process entails. And then as the porting team gets updates from the other carrier, we let you know what's going on. Now, that means that VirtualPBX, we have to wait on the other carrier to get back to us. Some of them are very responsive, very quick, like boom, all things handled. Some aren't. Sometimes it takes a few days just to get a response back, like, hey, we got your submission. If there is a problem, like there's an address mismatch on the information or the company name doesn't match, whatever, they will tell us that, hey, the port's been rejected and here's the reason. We then let you know, hey, we got a port rejection. Here's the reason they gave us. You're going to want to contact them to get that straightened out, i.e., normally we'll reference what's called a customer service record or CSR. You'd want to ask for that from your current carrier, going, what is the CSR information for my phone number? Because obviously the information you thought it was is incorrect. And they should provide that to you. You can then forward that to us, and then we can resubmit the port request. Users. So adding a user, if you would click on Add User, pop up. So enter their name, then an email address. Every user has to have a unique email address. So, bob.smith@virtualpbx.com and mary.smith@virtualpbx.com. You can create a password for them. Well, you need to create a password for them, I should say. The system, so on this particular account, I started off with extension 1000. So the system said, hey, the next available extension number is 1019. Now, I don't have to do that. I can change it to 2312 for whatever reasons, right? So you can have different extension starting numbers, etc. Then you have the option here to include in the user directory. Again, completely optional. The one thing I say you should do is this one here, is send credentials to the user, i.e., hey, Bob, I added you to this account. The system says, hey, you've been added. Here is your login information and how to get in. And then you click on Create User. So here we have Bob. If you click on his name, you can always change the name later. You can change their credentials. This is their voicemail box PIN number. If you choose send emails to alternate address, that's an email address in addition to the user email name, right? So bob.smith@virtualpbx.com will always get an email associated with this user. And if you add an additional email address, that'd be like bob.smith@gmail.com, right? Then he would get it at both locations. And then you have the option here to include a user directory. I can obviously change that if I want to. Over here on the right, this is the pull down. People can be either users or they can be admins, right? So admins can do everything I'm showing you here. Users, they're restricted to basically seeing the user portal, which we'll get to shortly or in a bit. One thing to keep in mind is if you've just signed up, please do not change yourself from an admin to a user. Keep yourself as an admin, at least until you have added someone else as an admin, at which point you can have them change you to a user if that's how you want it set up. Time zone, i.e. where in the world you are or the company is. Language, English, French, or Russian. The ringing timeout, this is how much time the system will ring to your devices by default. And default is 20 seconds. And then main extension number, in this case it's 1020. Basically this is the voicemail box that's tied intrinsically with the user as well. And then you click on Save Changes. Now users, you can have multiple extensions to a user. Most people don't need multiple extensions. But like say you have a manager who's had some staff turnover, but he wants those voicemails that come into the former staff to be handled, he can have those extensions of the former staff members go to him instead, so then he can make sure that those voicemails are handled and then taken care of, and that way you're not losing business. All right, over here is the phone number box. So again, phone numbers go directly to a user. So like your sales staff can have their own direct phone number, so that way they hand out their business cards, it goes right to people can then call them, it goes directly to them instead of going through your menu. And then you have the option to add from serial numbers, i.e. numbers you have on the account already, or you can just buy new numbers. Devices. So users need devices to be able to answer calls, right? So right now it's like you have a main number. They have options to get through to people. Now you need your people have the ability to answer the calls. So spare devices means you already added them to the account and they're not being used by anyone. You can then assign them to a person, or you can add a new device. First one up is a SIP phone. This is a VoIP phone. So SIP is a kind of VoIP phone, right? VoIP is a generic term, covers any number of devices. SIP is a particular version of a VoIP phone. And basically, it's like session interface protocol or something like that. Sorry, I forget the exact acronym name. But basically, when you click on this, you've got these manufacturers to choose from. I'm not sure why this one isn't showing up. You click on the manufacturer, you look for your model, and then when you select the model, you need to give it a name, and then you enter the MAC address of the phone. This is should be a sticker on the back of the phone. It's a alphanumeric string. It's basically a unique number for that phone. And then you would click on Create Device, and it would add it to the user. Now, in terms of Dash, that's all it needs here. On the phone itself, you would need to go in and adjust a particular page. We have guides on our website, but essentially you're telling it, you would be pointing it to go connect to this server. The phone would then reboot. Your phone would then connect to that server and give its MAC address, right? And then the server says, oh, it goes to this account. Here's your configuration information. Phone gets that information, probably reboots again, and then your phone's ready to use. And the advantage of the auto-provisioned phones is you can basically use every feature on that phone, right? The hold button works, the transfer button works, etc. Right? Cell phone and landline are essentially the same. You give it a name, and then you put +1 area code and phone number. And actually, let's go to so once you have a cell phone added, you can click on the options. And the default setup is like this. Let's get that back up. All right. So by default, when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or a landline, right, your phone's going to ring. You pick up. You're going to hear an automated voice tell you, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. So what that does is it tells the system that, yes, there is someone there ready to take the call. You press the 1, call's connected. If you don't press 1, then the system says, oh, there's no one actually there, and either go to the next device that you have on your user or goes to your user's voicemail box. Now, if you don't want that to happen, or, for instance, you're actually sending calls to an automated answering service, what you would want to do is put a check mark here under Use Allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So what it does is you don't have to press 1 to accept the call anymore, right? You pick up, you can start talking, which is great for when you're sending calls to an automated answering service because an automated answering service can't press 1, can't send that tone. So instead, your caller gets sent to the automated answering service. They go through whatever menu or speak to someone eventually. Downside of this is if you're actually having it go to an actual cell phone, if you don't pick up, then your business call can go to your personal cell phone's voicemail box. Some people love that. Some people don't want it at all. All right, keep original caller ID. What that means is when the call gets sent on to that cell phone or landline, the inbound caller's caller ID is the information that shows up on your phone's display. If you uncheck this, then what happens, instead of that original, the inbound caller's caller ID, the VirtualPBX phone number they called. so your main number, for example. That would show up as a caller ID on your phone. So that way you would know, oh, this is a work call. So that you can answer it accordingly. All right, soft phone. So a soft phone does count as a VoIP device. So by default, you're going to give it a name, and it's assuming that you're using a third-party device, meaning you're using software from another company. You could also use this to program a VoIP phone that didn't show up on the SIP list from before. Now, if you want to use a VirtualPBX soft phone, right down here where it says Use Third-Party Application, it's grayed out. If you click on that, boom, you change it to Use VirtualPBX Application, and you just need to give it a device name. Now, if you're going to use the VirtualPBX application, you need to do this from the user page, and then you would click on Create Device. And what that does is the system creates the soft phone for you on the account. It emails the user directly saying, hey, your soft phone was added for you. It's ready to work. Here's your login information for this application. Here's the download link to get to it. Now, by default, what this is doing is sending you the link for the mobile versions of the applications, so the iOS app or the Android app. We do have desktop versions of the app available for Mac OS and Windows. However, those require a license fee, so you'd have to either buy them through a web store or contact our billing team to have them get that situated, and then we get you the updated link for the desktop versions. All right, web phone. Again, this is something you want to add directly on the user, excuse me. And then you give it a device name and you hit Create Device. What this does is you can now use Chrome or Firefox on a desktop PC to make and receive calls. You need to add this directly to the user because to log into the web phone, you use the same login information as you did to log into Dash. So your email address, your password, and your account name on the web phone login page. Obviously, you would need a headset or mic and speakers to be able to properly use the web phone on your PC. And then everything else is the same. All right, so we're going to go to user features here. All right, caller ID number. This will only work on a user that has a phone number under their phone numbers box. If they click Enable, then they can show their own specific phone number as their caller ID. So basically, when I pick up my VoIP phone, I call a number. It's the 702 phone number that shows up as my caller ID versus whatever caller ID number is on the main account, versus the main number that's on the account. Excuse me. Or I can turn it off and just have the main number show up. Okay, call forwarding. This is actually mostly for VoIP phone users. So you can have it off or on, or in this, what I have it here is the failover mode. So off, be self-assuming, I'm not call forwarding. On is say, hey, I'm going to be away from my desk phone for the day, but I'm still working because I'm going to customer sites or something. And so I still want to be able to take calls when I'm not in a meeting with the customer. So then, here, we'll turn it back on. I have it set to, hey, go to my mobile phone. I put +1 area code and phone number. And then these other options. But basically that means when a call comes into my user, instead of ringing my VoIP devices that I'm not at, it's sending it set to my cell phone number. Right? By having it set to failover mode, what I'm doing is if my VoIP phones suddenly lose connection, i.e. my ISP has an issue and now I don't have internet, the system will see that, hey, you lost connection, right? Dash will see, hey, you don't have connection on your VoIP device. You're still getting calls to your user, but they're getting sent to your cell phone. The main thing about call forwarding is you do not want your cell phone as a device on the account or on your user. Hot desking, this is another VoIP phone feature. This is if you're in a shared office environment where you might be switching from desk from day to day, right? So Monday, I was at desk 23. It's Tuesday, I'm at desk 7. Both those desks have VoIP phones. They have computers. I need to be able to log in and get my calls, right? Because what's the point of working if I'm supposed to be taking calls and I'm not getting calls? So with hot desking enabled, you give yourself a hot desk ID, or as an admin, you'd be giving your users a hot desk ID. I normally say just match it to the extension number because they eventually will remember that all the time. They go to the VoIP phone that they're sitting at. They hit *11. It's a feature code. The system will prompt them, please enter your hot desk ID. They enter that. If you have a PIN number associated with it, they would ask for the PIN number, and that says then you're logged into the phone. What that means is calls come in to my user, and the system sends it to the right phone that I'm sitting at. Pick up the phone, do my business. At the end of my day, I hit *12 to log out of hot desking. And that way, the next day, whatever phone I'm sitting at, I hit *11, log back in. Voicemails, every user gets a voicemail box created at the same time the user is created. That voicemail box and the user are intrinsically tied. If you go back later and delete the voicemail box of a user and then realize you didn't mean to do that and try to manually create a voicemail box, there's no way for you to retie that newly created voicemail box back to the user. The only way we found to get that fixed is actually deleting the user completely and recreating them. That way the user and the voicemail box are recreated at the same time. Fax box, users can have their own fax box. This would be in addition to your main fax box. What I recommend is typically have a phone number specifically for that fax box, so that way the people who are faxing to you just enter that fax number, click fax start on their fax machine, and then walk away. Right? If you set it up to go to an extension, what the person faxing has to do then is call the main number, then enter the extension number that they're faxing to, then they hit fax start to get the fax to go through. That might be difficult to get people to change because a lot of people are probably used to just go up to the fax machine, hit the number, hit fax start, and they go on with their day. Follow me, this is if you have multiple devices. How do you want the system to handle your devices? Now, if you don't have Follow Me enabled and you have multiple devices, what happens is a call comes to your user, all of your devices ring at the same time and for the same amount of time, 20 seconds by default. Now, that may not work for you, or you may not have, want that set up. That's why you would enable Follow Me. And in this case, I have my web phone ringing for a minute, and then I have a soft phone that rings for the second minute. Right up here, that's my total ring duration for my devices. I can change that because 2 minutes is a long time to ring. So I could change it down to 60 seconds if I want. Now, let's say I don't want this order. I could adjust the sliders individually, or I could just click and drag and then click distribute. Do it that way. But again, you can click and drag these sliders to adjust how you want it to work. If you don't want a device to ring, you would just click on the box over here, do not ring. Now, the first time you come into Follow Me, all your devices will be set to do not ring because you hadn't set it up yet. All right, music on hold. Every user can have their own on-hold music. You would click enabled. Again, you would upload a .mp3 or .wav recorded in mono. And then we have customized call recording, so you can record calls on the account. They're stored at AWS. But basically, inbound internal means another user on the account called me. Right? Inbound external means a customer calls me. Whereas outbound internal means I called another user. And then outbound external means I called a customer back. All right, next up we've got groups or ring groups. This is basically departments. You would click on add group, you give it a name and then an extension, and then you would click and drag people over to it, and then you would click on create group. If you click on the name of a group, you can always change the name, and then you have dialing repeats, little up and down arrows here on the far right. Basically, how many times can the inbound caller ring through to the people in the group? In this case, twice. Click on Save Changes. If you click on Group Members, you see the people who are in the group. You can change the order around as you see fit. You can click Distribute, so then it rings to these people in order, right? Or again, adjust to how you want it. So for instance, if I want all my people to be getting calls the entire time, you do this. Extension number, and then the extension number for a group is basically so your staff members can send callers to the correct group. Like they came to one group, like your billing group, because they need a billing question, but then, oh, I have another, sales question. Oh, let me send you over to the sales group. You can have a phone number go directly to a group, right, bypassing your main menu. And then you've got group features. Call recording, you can record all the calls for a group. It's basically, it's on or it's off. Ringback is essentially the hold music for a group. So let's go back for a minute here. Click on members. Up here, that's your total ring duration for the group in seconds, 120, so 2 minutes. So if I go back over here to the ringback, I can upload a file. I just need to make sure whatever file I upload is at least 2 minutes long. Because the system doesn't automatically loop the file. Next action, if you click enabled, basically if no one answers the call, what do you want the system to do? And in this case, I said, hey, I'm having it go to a voicemail box, which is pretty typical, but you also send it back to the original main menu, so they can press the menu option. Allow call forwarding. This is allowing your VoIP phone users to make use of call forwarding. So if you enable it, then they can forward calls from their group to their cell phone or voice or landline. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. Basically, you can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that will show up on their phone's display, so that way your staff members know, oh, this is a call about whatever topic. All right, next up we got the devices page. This shows all the devices you have on the account. You can add devices here, and that's usually for like a physical VoIP phone or soft phones. Basically, hey, we have a bunch of staff we're going to hire. We don't know who they are yet, but let's go ahead and add the devices so that once they're here, we can then assign the device to them once they are here. Green means, as far as we know, it's connected, right? So this web phone is connected, for example. Red means, hey, disconnected, i.e., we can't send a call to it. If you ever see a black one, it means it's been disabled here. Those are your voicemail boxes. Anyone that has a user, that means that was the user-created voicemail box, i.e. created at the same time as a user. You could always manually create a voicemail box like I did here. Basically give it a name, extension number, and a PIN number. For a manually created voicemail box, you do need eventually, well, all voicemail boxes you want to have some kind of greeting media here. You can either select something that's already on the system. You can upload .wav or .mp3 recorded in mono. Recipients, who's getting the email notification when a voicemail comes in. And just add the email address one at a time. And then you have options. So you would check already set up when you've already had a greeting file uploaded to the voicemail box. And then one other thing I would say is, as long as you're making use of that email notifications, you can go ahead and put a check mark here, delete ad for notification. Basically, when Dash sends out an email for a voicemail box, right, in that email is an attachment with the voicemail message. And on Dash, you're limited to 100 messages on the account. I believe it's the account. And then once you hit that, it says, hey, mailbox is full. Please try again later. So if you're sending the email out with the voicemails already, you can just have delete after notification. That way your voicemail box will never get full. Up here is the feature codes. If it shows up. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. But basically, these are key combinations on your physical VoIP phones, or actually even your soft phones and web phone, so any of your VoIP phones, that you can press to make use of particular features. So like *11 I mentioned under hot desking. There's also for logging into the ACD queues and what have you. I think something happened with my browser here, so let me get that restarted here. And the feature codes are actually on the VirtualPBX website under Dash Support. So you don't always have to log in to get to them or require your staff to have them memorized. Here we go. Maybe. Not quite sure why the feature codes page won't load. So we'll just go over to call logs. This is a test account, so there's probably not too many test calls that are coming in. But basically, this shows you call data that comes in. The green arrow to the right means an incoming call. Orange arrow to the left means an outbound call. And you click on the call itself to get some more details, and then a little gear icon gets you some technical details. Our engineering team is working on some advanced reporting, which is a little bit easier to parse than just the raw call data. I unfortunately don't have an ETA on that at this time. Up here, as you kind of noticed, this is your main navigation throughout different aspects of the account. So right here, dashboard, which is what we've been on. Next up, we have queues, or ACD queues. ACD stands for automatic call distribution, essentially a call center feature. It offers some different routing options than a ring group. So ring group is pretty much everyone all at once or people in series are the main options, whereas in a queue, not showing me all the options. So there's 4 options for queue routing in a queue. So most idle means whoever's been waiting for the call the longest. Round robin is supposed to be random, and it evens out over time. I haven't done enough testing to realize if that's actually true. Then there's most or least offered, meaning whoever's had the least amount of calls offered to them will get the next call that comes in. And then there's least calls, meaning the least amount of connected calls. So like if you were offered 20 calls, but you only spoke to 2 people, and your coworker was only offered 5 calls but spoke to 4 people, you're getting the next call that comes in. All right, so you can give it a name, you can give a phone number or an extension number. Right, you've got the routing option or routing strategy. You can have hold music, and you can upload again a file .wave, .mp3 in mono. Queue timeout. This is the hold time for the people for your inbound callers. Queue call limit. You can limit the amount of people who can wait on hold. If you leave it at 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. So if you have no staff members logged into the queue, basically you say, hey, we're going to time them out immediately. An escalation queue means like if this queue is too busy, you can send it to another queue on your account. Or instead, you say escalation overflow, meaning after when a timeout, set it to a voicemail box. Over here, agent recovery time. Basically, after an agent is done with a call, how much time do they have before they're offered another call? I.e., they have time to get a sip of water or finish up whatever notes, etc. Force away on, rejected, or missed. Basically, if an agent misses a call, you can have the system automatically put them in away mode, meaning the user has to make themselves ready on their own. And then agent timeout is basically how much time the system is trying to reach a particular agent before it sends it to the next caller. And then for any staff member that you have in queues, if they click on queues, it'll give them a login box, and then they can mark themselves away or ready. And there's also feature codes for that. For admins, next up is blacklists. So if you want to block callers or caller ID from connecting to your system, i.e., you have a robo-dialer or you have a person who keeps calling you to harass your staff members and waste time. So actually, so you would click Edit Blacklists. You would either choose Add to create a new blacklist or edit an existing one. And then you would add an area code, +1 area code and phone number. And you would click on Add. And then you click on Save. And then you go back to Settings. And then you click and drag your list over into Selected. And then you would click Update. And now this list is in use. As an admin, you can get to any fax box on the account and see what's going on with their faxes. Same with the outbound. The main thing you're probably going to use is the email to fax log to see, hey, what happened with the fax? Why didn't it go through? And then in this case, it's saying, hey, you have a problem with your fax box. Recordings, this goes to AWS. The user portal, this is what every person on the account has access to. So they can see their voicemails, they can see their call history. Oh, they won't see voicemails if you have delete after notification. They can see their fax history, the contact list, which will be everything on the account, basically the users, the ring groups, etc. If you're making use of the conference bridge, this is their conference settings. They can add other users on the account to a conference. You can lock a conference so other people can't join. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the call. If you're in a conference, you also have some additional participant options, including the option to mute particular participants as well as kick particular participants. And then the settings of devices where the users can set up their own call forwarding. So that way they don't have to bother an admin for that. And then voicemail box, again, as an admin, you can get to any voicemail box on the account. And then lastly, there's webhooks. Basically, that's making use of APIs to link Dash into other software. And that is everything on Dash. If you have any questions, I'll hang out for a couple minutes. You can make use of the chat. Otherwise, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day.